Replacement camp. I don't remember signing up for this camp. When the bus dropped me off, I just assumed my parents had done it without telling me. Maybe trying to push me out of the house for a few weeks of fresh air. That's the kind of thing they'd do. The place looked like any other summer camp. Cabins, woods, a lake. But something felt off. The counselors didn't smile. The other kids didn't talk much. They just watched. And when I got to my assigned cabin, that's when it started. The counselor handed me a red T-shirt with the camp logo on it, Camp Ashwood, and pointed to cabin 4B. When I walked in, there were already other boys unpacking. One of them glanced at me, then did a double take. He whispered something to the kid next to him, and they both stared. I thought I had dirt on my face or something, but when I checked in the bathroom mirror, nope, I looked normal. Tired, maybe, but normal. Later that night, I tried to call my parents, but there was no signal. No bars, no Wi-Fi. The phone just gave me a no-service message and froze when I tried to restart it. That's when I noticed my bunk already had a name tag on it. My name, already written. Perfect handwriting. Weird. I muttered. Maybe the counselor had filled it in ahead of time. The next few days blurred together. The routine was strict. Wake up, morning run, mess hall, activities, dinner, lights out. No electronics, no books from home, not even letters. Everything was provided, including clothing. My own clothes? Gone. I asked the counselor about them, and he said, "You arrived in uniform. Maybe you're confused." That's when I started noticing him. At first, I thought it was just another kid who looked a bit like me. Same height, same haircut. But then I saw his face. Exactly the same. Not similar. Identical. He was wearing my shoes. The ones I arrived in. I tried to talk to one of the other kids. Asked if they'd noticed anything strange. The kid blinked slowly and said, "There's only one of you." I checked the cabin list. Only one name matching mine. The next morning, I woke up and found the bunk next to mine had my name on it. The one I've been sleeping in now said someone else's name. His. The other me. I demanded to speak to the head counselor. They just looked at me with a blank expression and said, "You're adjusting well. That's good." I didn't eat that day. I didn't trust the food. That night, I snuck into the admin office. I found the registration sheets. My name had been crossed out. Next to it, a new name written neatly. Confirmed replacement. Success. I ran to the cabin. To open the door. He was already in my bed, sleeping peacefully, wearing my face. I didn't sleep. I sat outside on the steps until the sky turned gray. In the morning, I tried to leave, just walk out through the woods. But the trail I remember from the bus ride-in wasn't there. Just thick trees, endless forest. The next time I entered the mess hall, kids barely glanced at me. They talked to him now. He laughed with them, ate with them. A week later, I looked in the mirror. Something in my reflection was off. My eyes were duller. My voice sounded thinner. My shadow didn't quite line up with my body. I'm not sure how much longer I have. Soon, I think I'll vanish completely, like I never existed, and he'll stay. Story 2. The Red Band. The first day at Camp Pinewood always started the same. Name circles, cabin assignments, colored wristbands, and a welcome shout by the lake. It was a tradition since the 1960s. But that summer, something changed. As the campers lined up to receive their wristbands, blue, green, yellow, based on cabin groups, a new box appeared at the far end of the table. No label. Inside, a handful of red wristbands, thickly woven, each with a spiral knot. "We don't have these on the list," said Denise, one of the counselors, frowning. The camp director, a gray-haired man named Mr. Baird, simply said, "They're for the Special Exploration Group. Only a few kids will get them." No one asked further questions. That afternoon, 5 campers were called aside. None of them knew each other. They were handed red wristbands with no explanation, just a cold instruction. Do not take it off. And do not speak about the group to anyone. One of them was Nico, a quiet kid attending camp for the first time. At first, he thought it was some kind of secret game, like a scavenger hunt or a special mission. But when he returned to his cabin, the other kids were staring. "You got the red one?" One whispered. "You shouldn't have accepted that." Nico didn't understand. But that night, when the other Reds, a red-haired boy named Caleb, didn't show up at the bonfire, his bed was empty at dawn. His flashlight was still on beneath his pillow. His red band had been tied around the tallest branch outside the cabin, far too high for any person to reach without a ladder. The staff said Caleb had left early, that his parents came to get him, and he didn't want to say goodbye. The next night, another red-banded camper disappeared. Same setup. Untouched bed, flashlight still on, red band hanging from a tree limb, this time even higher. Nico began to have nightmares. He saw a hooded figure walking through the woods, with long arms and a face that had no shape. The same sentence whispered through the trees. "You were what is mine." One morning, Nico worked up the courage to ask Denise about the red bands. "You shouldn't have one. That practice was banned years ago," she whispered, eyes wide. There was an instructor in the 80s, expelled after strange things started happening. 5 kids vanished. So, did she? All of them were in the same special group. She wore a red band, just like that one. That night, at 2:44 a.m., Nico woke up to a loud knock on the cabin door. Then another, and then silence. When he stepped out with his flashlight, there was only fog between the trees. Hanging from a branch outside was another red band. His own red band was still on his wrist. Inside, one more camper from the red group. Sam was gone. Bed made. Window open. Flashlight still on. Nico tried to remove his band. It wouldn't come off. The fibers had tightened around his skin, like they had grown into it. He tried scissors, a sharp rock, even heat. Nothing worked. Every attempt left deeper marks on his wrist. Desperate, he went to Mr. Baird. "Please, I want out of the group. I didn't ask for this. Take it off." Baird looked at him as if he already knew. Calmly, he rolled up his sleeve. He was wearing a red band, too. "It's too late, Nico," he said with a tired smile. "She chooses who belongs. She always comes back for what's hers." That night, Nico didn't sleep. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the cabin door creaked open. 3 counselors stood outside. They didn't speak. Their flashlights weren't even on. From the trees came a figure, floating just above the ground, pale and eyeless. The old instructor. "Give me what's mine," she said, reaching toward Nico's wrist. He screamed, closed his eyes. When he opened them, it was morning. His red band was gone. Denise quit that same day. Nobody knew why. She simply said, "I won't keep covering this up." Nico was withdrawn from the camp. His parents picked him up without explanation. Camp Pine would reopen the next year. New activities, new staff, new campers, and a new box of wristbands. This time, there were only 4. They were red. The night shift at Smoke Lake. When the sun sets over Smoke Lake, the surface of the water turns into a black mirror. The trees reflect twisted, as if the forests were being pulled into another dimension. Locals never swim there after dark, but the kids on night shift don't get a choice. It was the summer of 2002 when Alex, Marcos, Jenny, and Tom joined the Smoke Lake Night Maintenance Program. Decent pay, free food, and freedom to laze around during the day. The only rules: clean the dining hall, check the bathrooms, and take a walk along the lakeshore every hour. "If you hear a whistle, ignore it," said the camp director on the first day. "Probably owls or the wind. Don't go near the water. Ever. Under any circumstances." The kids looked at each other, trying not to laugh. Owls? The wind? What was this? A ghost story for newbies. But the first night, something felt off. At 2:17 a.m., Tom and Marcos were patrolling near the dock when they heard a soft whistle. It wasn't coming from the woods. It came from the lake. 3 long, slow notes. No wind. No birds. Just still water and thick mist covering half the dock. "Did you hear that?" Marcos asked, stopping in his tracks. "Yeah," Tom replied. "Let's go find Jenny. This is getting creepy." They ran back to the dining hall. But Jenny was gone. Her flashlight was still on, resting on one of the tables. In her place on the floor lay an old rusted whistle, caked in mud. They called the director. No answer. At dawn, the lake remained still, wrapped in fog that refused to lift. Jenny never came back. The police came. They searched, dived, questioned. Nothing. The director said she left on her own. Claimed she left a note, but never showed it. That night, Alex refused to go out. Claimed he had a fever. Marcos didn't want to go either, but they made him. He went with Tom, who insisted on sticking to the schedule. Quick lap and we're done. Don't stop. Don't look at the lake, Tom said. Marcos said nothing. At 3 a.m., the whistle came again. 3 notes. Slower now. Clearer. But this time, they saw it. A hooded figure, standing on the lake. Not on the dock. On the water. Feet hovering just above the surface. No face, just a void where eyes should be. In its hand, a rusted whistle glowing faintly. Run. Tom shouted, yanking Marcos. But Marcos didn't move. He stared, transfixed, until the figure raised its arm. The whistle gleamed. Moments later, Marcos walked toward the lake and never came back. Tom ran, screamed, called for Alex, the director, anyone. But only the fog answered. At dawn, Tom sat by the dock, shaking. In his hand, the same rusted whistle. He didn't remember picking it up. Alex was the last. The camp didn't shut down. The director insisted everything was fine, that Jenny and Marcos had chosen not to continue. Tom barely spoke. He wandered the grounds at night with blank eyes. Alex packed to flee, planned to leave at dawn. But that night, the lake called. At 2:43 a.m., the whistle returned. 3 notes, this time loud and sharp. Alex covered his ears, but the sound tunneled into his mind. He stumbled out of the cabin, drawn by something unnatural. The mist thickened, and all he could see was a shimmer of water and a cloaked figure in the distance. Then he heard laughter. Jenny's. Singing. Marcos humming an eerie tune. Tom whispering in a language he didn't recognize. And one phrase repeated. Don't go near the water. Story 4. The cabin that wasn't on the map. Camp Maple Ridge was known for its dense woods and rustic charm, a place where generations of kids had spent their summers learning to canoe, telling ghost stories around campfires, and waking up to the smell of pine and fresh lake water. The camp's hand-drawn map was legendary, hanging prominently in the mess hall and showing every trail, every cabin, and every landmark with almost obsessive precision, or so everyone thought. Lila James was a first-year counselor, nervous but excited to be part of the camp's tradition. On her 3rd day, during a supply run, she spotted something strange while walking along the East Trail, an old cabin tucked between 2 paths that, according to the map, didn't connect. The cabin was weathered beyond recognition. Its wooden siding was gray and peeling. Vines wrapped around its porch posts and moss blanketed its slanted roof. The front door was cracked open, creaking gently in the wind. She stopped in her tracks. It wasn't on the map. When she mentioned it to the other counselors, their smiles faltered. A senior counselor named Ruth said softly, "That's cabin 13. Nobody uses it anymore. Best to leave it alone." "Why?" Lila asked. "Camp rules say it's off limits." "Not safe," Ruth said, avoiding eye contact. Despite the warnings, Lila's curiosity grew. That night, after lights out, she slipped from her bunk with a small flashlight and made her way toward the cabin. The forest was alive with insects and shadows, but she pushed forward, heart pounding with anticipation. The cabin door was slightly open, inviting her inside. Stepping over the threshold, the stale air hit her like a wave. The floorboards groaned beneath her feet. What caught her breath, however, was the walls. Names. Hundreds of names were carved meticulously into the wood paneling, some neat, some jagged. Next to the names were dates stretching back decades, 1954, 1978, 1992, and more recent ones, 2017, 2019. Some names had small X's next to them. Her hand trembled as she scanned the wall and suddenly froze. Among the names was her own, Lila James, August 12th, X. She hadn't even been here on August 12th yet. A sudden noise snapped her out of her paralysis. The door slammed shut behind her. Lila spun, flashlight beam cutting through the dimness. No one was there, but the carving seemed to shift. The excess slid downward slowly, like shadows melting into the floor. Panic surged. She yanked the door open and bolted back into the night, branches scratching her arms and face. Back at camp, she demanded answers. Ruth looked at her like she was crazy. Cabin 13's been on the map for years, she said. You must have missed it. Lila pulled out the map. Cabin 13 was there in black ink, where she swore nothing had been. The next day, a camper named Chris vanished without a trace. His bed was made, his things untouched. All they found was a new carving on the cabin wall. Chris Dawson, August 14th, X, etched freshly in sharp lines. Lila's name remained near the bottom, the X growing darker. Desperate, she and Ruth tried to find Cabin 13. The woods were a maze of twisting trees, but no matter which trail they took, the cabin remained elusive. Sometimes it would appear like a mirage, then vanish when they looked directly. The camp director dismissed their concerns. Camp rules are for safety, he said firmly. Cabin 13 is an old hazard zone. Best to stay away. But Lila knew the danger was more than structural. One night, she awoke to scratching at her window. Shining her flashlight outside, she glimpsed a pale figure standing perfectly still in the shadows. It didn't move. And then, the carvings on the cabin wall, they started to glow faintly. Names she didn't recognize swirled and appeared. Children who had attended Camp Maple Ridge long before her time. And each name was followed by a date and a chilling X. Lila's heart pounded. Her own name was slowly sliding down the list. She realized the X wasn't just a mark. It was a curse, a warning, that she was next. The following morning, Chris was never mentioned again. His bunk was empty, erased from the roster. And the map? The next day, Cabin 13 was gone. Only trees remained.